In terms of some brief introductions, I'm Guy. I'm commercial head of practice for modern work and security. So I have commercial ownership over that part of those parts of our organisation. My focus predominantly is on customer acquisition, so I look after a small sales team, but I get involved in pretty much everything that sits in those technical practices. And there'll be some people on the call that will have sat through sessions like this that I've been on, or will have spoken to me directly. So great to see everyone existing, and hello to all the new people. I've also got Rob. So Rob's one of our principal architects. He sits within our security practice. Rob will be doing the kind of technical deep dive in today's session. Just before I do the kind of company intro, just obviously Darren's already referenced it about the session being recorded. We do record the sessions, so if you don't want to appear on screen, either on video or audio, feel free to sit with cameras off, on mute. If you have any questions, actually, you're more than welcome to come off mute and shout them out. If you're more comfortable putting them in the chat, then feel free. Keep an eye on that. I'll answer any questions that I can. Don't hold out too much hope on that if it's anything technical, and I will then interrupt Rob at a sensible point if we need to pose a question to him. We do have some time for Q&A at the end. If you want to leave them to end, that's absolutely fine, but don't feel you need to. We want these sessions to be interactive. It can be a bit of a hard slog sat talking to a screen for 45 minutes, so feel free to shout out any questions as we run through, and we'll do our best to answer them. Do you want to just jump on a slide for me, Rob? Absolutely. Perfect. So just a very brief introduction to Transparity for those that are new. I'm going to say apologies to those who have sat through one of these sessions before and heard me kind of regurgitate this same spiel many times. But Transparity are a pure play Microsoft Cloud organization. We are about to turn 9 end of February, and our business has been kind of predicated and built around Microsoft Cloud. We are very fortunate to hold a number of accreditations, some of which you'll see on screen. So we now hold 6 of the partner designations, of which there are only 6 core partner designations, which are the replacements to the traditional kind of silver and gold model that Microsoft have used for many years. Partner designations are built around capability and deployment rather than passing exams and hitting revenue targets. So it's a much more kind of streamlined process, and starts to really put down the kind of capability markers for partners like us. So we are very proud to hold all 6 of those. We also hold 13 advanced specializations. So these are some slightly more specific technical areas. Again, these are based around capability and delivery. So less around us passing exams, but more about what we have delivered for customers, and we have to submit customer references and case studies as part of that. So those 2 things combined put us in the top few partners, certainly within the UK, in terms of accreditations. We are also an Azure Expert MSP, obviously not relevant so much for today's session, but something that only a small number of UK partners get to hold. And actually referencing the kind of security side, we're also part of MISA, so Microsoft's Intelligent Security Association, which is a invite-only I guess group forum team of partners like us across the world, actually, who get to help support and shape some of the Microsoft journey, feedback on products, get involved in some of that development. So again, very fortunate to have been invited into that off the back of our work around our Security Operations Center and the capability within security. So everything we do is hinged around the Microsoft products. And there are no competes, there are no third parties. Everything is built around that. So we are very proud to be a Microsoft kind of pure play cloud partner. Obviously, today's session is focused around security and specifically around zero trust. And just before I kick off and hand over to Rob, it's always good to get a little bit of a feel for who's in the room and their view around the topic. So rather than going to pick on people specifically, I'm going to just, and hopefully the wonders of technology will work for me here, I'm going to just launch a poll, which is really just posing a question of how you feel about zero trust. So what does it mean to you? Ultimately, no right, wrong answers. Select multiple if you feel necessary, but just good for us to get a little bit of a feel of where people may be in their journey there, or their understanding. Just helps Rob get a bit of context before we start. So that should be up on screen. It'd be great if everyone could select the relevant option or options and submit that. And I think that's probably enough from me. And Rob, I'll hand over to you.
Brilliant, thanks, guys. So yeah, Guy's already done me an introduction, so we'll gloss over that. I don't think there's really much more to say about me. Interesting just seeing some of the responses come into the poll. Kind of want to start with that. What is zero trust? I'm going to turn the chat off because I'll get distracted. So what is zero trust? So firstly, zero trust means we don't trust our own staff. Not at all. Zero trust works on the basis that we never trust, we always verify. It's not about not trusting our own staff. It's about ensuring the staff we trust to do their jobs are the ones on the other end of their login, their device, accessing the application or the data. So it's about that explicit verification. It's expensive to deploy, or it's something we have to buy. Not at all. Zero trust is not an off-the-shelf product. It doesn't have to be expensive to deploy. It's a security strategy. It's a mindset culture shift about how we approach security. So you can't go and buy it. You can't deploy it overnight. And I would wager that all of you have the capabilities today to start adopting zero trust. What I will say, it's not a point solution. You don't just do zero trust to one part of your business, one part of your organization. It needs to be holistic in its approach, and it needs to be driven from the top down. So it is a strategy. Zero trust is a fad, or it's new, it's not going to be around forever. Not at all. Zero trust as a term has been around for 30 years. It was first coined, the term was first coined in 94. It wasn't probably until about 2010 that an analyst for Forrester used it to define a stricter cybersecurity program. 2020, something happened. It really went on. It really ramped up, and lots of people started adopting it because they had no choice. If you go and look at NIST, the Open Group, the Cloud Security Alliance, and obviously we'll talk about Microsoft today, everybody is adopting it and pinning themselves to it as a cybersecurity strategy. It's not going anywhere, and it is a dynamic model. It is not a fixed single thing, so it will continue to evolve as we go forward. We're not ready to go on our zero trust journey. This is one I hear a lot, because it will cause too much friction from the business. If we pivot back to what we were just saying about it being a security strategy, being holistic and being driven from the top down, if you do it correctly, if you really embed it and you're prepared to have that culture and that mindset shift, it will actually enable your users to be more productive, because it will enable that secure access from anywhere. I'm not going to reference Microsoft studies, but there are details out there about how it does drive efficiency and enables your staff to be more productive. Okay, so we know it's a security strategy. Why do we select it? Well, security as a concept, simple. It's just risk management. We're mitigating and maintaining systems, and we're limiting, the fallout from an incident, right? That doesn't mean that it's easy to deploy. In actual fact, doing security well is really difficult. Zero trust helps us because it adopts this never trust, always verify stance. It discards this notion that everything inside our perimeter, our trusted internal network, is okay, and anything outside is bad. We treat all network traffic, all traffic, as untrusted, and that shift enables us to do more comprehensive and sort of proactive cybersecurity, because we focus on securing resources at a more granular level. So we employ technologies like multi-factor authentication, identity and access management, encryption, and we look at least privilege controls. So we minimize that unauthorized access and that potential for damage from breaches. So going to our principles, which you can see on the right-hand side here, these are the 3 principles of zero trust to verify explicitly. So this principle requires users to verify who they are using more than one method, so that compromised accounts operated by threat actors aren't allowed to access our data or our apps. And it should ideally also require our devices to be recognized as being allowed access to the environment, and ideally managed and in a healthy state, so not compromised malware or other malicious activity, for example. Excuse me. We use least privilege. So this principle works on limiting blast radius of a potential breach, so that if a single account or multiple accounts are compromised, the potential damage is limited. For accounts with greater privileges, like administrator accounts, we look at enhancing that capability by limiting the amount of access that those accounts have. So we look at just in time or just enough access, the roles required to do the job, and we make it time bound so that those permissions don't exist outside of the time when we actually need them. We should be requiring higher levels of risk-based authentication for these accounts. So as an example, SMS is still considered a multi-factor authentication, and there's a raging debate as to whether it's secure or not. But we deliver security based on risk. Administrative or high privileged accounts we would require stronger authentication for them. And then assume breach. Let's be honest, we need to work on the mindset that we can never be 100% secure. Right. So this principle assumes that there is a strong likelihood that an attacker will gain access to an account, to an identity, to an endpoint, to an application. And it involves implementing tools for ongoing threat detection and the capability to deliver that rapid response. There is a direct correlation between reduced dwell time and reduced cost of a breach. Yeah. So the quicker you can identify a threat, the quicker you can remediate it, the less impact it's going to have. And obviously, talking about lower costs, here's a nice stat from a IBM survey done in 2001. Genuinely, seriously, organizations that adopt zero trust are better prepared for data breaches. This figure comes from companies with a mature zero trust adoption are going to, incur like £1.4 million worth of lower cost than an organization that hasn't started on their zero trust journey. So there is a tangible business benefit to embedding zero trust as your security strategy. Is everybody okay with that? There's no questions, I'll move on. Cool. Okay, so now we know that zero trust is, hang on, my keyboard's gone to sleep. Okay, so we know that it's a strategy, so then how do we map it to our infrastructure? So this is Microsoft's zero trust architecture, and we can see that we pretty much have everything covered here. It's down on the left, and predominantly it is an identity-based security strategy. So we talk about identities and whether that's human or non-human, so service accounts, managed identities, or it could be our staff, our guests, our administrators. And when we also look at endpoints, so our devices, are they corporate? Are they enrolled into management? Are they personal devices? In the center of this model, we have our zero trust policy enforcement engine. So that is continuously evaluating our signals and applying the policies. We feed into that with policy optimization at the top. So we deploy governance around our infrastructure. We ensure that we're compliant. We do our posture assessment, and we optimize based on the signals that we gain to feed into that policy enforcement engine. We should also feed into that policy enforcement engine, and we should take signals out of it using threat protection. So that continuous assessment of those signals, leveraging external threat intelligence and mapping that to our environment, and having the capability to do those digital forensics and automate the responses. Again, assume breach, lower dwell time, lower cost. And at the other end, we have our network, our data, our applications, our infrastructure, and again, we take all those signals to from both those four pillars to inform that engine, but also to inform the access decisions as to what we can get access to. Okay, so that's great. But we're here to talk about Microsoft tooling, right? So how does the Microsoft tooling layer over the top of this infrastructure, this architecture? So again, going back to the core elements, the identity and the endpoints, where we start. Entra ID, formerly Azure AD, using tooling such as Enter ID password protection, identity protection to cover user risk and sign-in risk, strong governance through ID governance, access reviews of our guest accounts and our member accounts. Defender for Identity is a tool where we apply to our on-premises Active Directory infrastructure, and we take the intelligence that we have in the cloud and the capabilities we have in the cloud to assess and correlate that information with threats. Going on to endpoints, Intune, mobile device management, and using signals from those devices, such as device compliance, to inform those access decisions, and building on that with Defender for Endpoint and our endpoint detection and response, evaluating devices in near real time to provide risk information to Intune, to device compliance. So in the center of this model, we can use conditional access as our policy enforcement engine to make informed decisions around whether an authentication is genuine or not, or whether it's risky or not. If we look at the top, our policy optimization, there are lots of tools in the Microsoft stack that we can use to assess our security posture and apply governance to it. So the first one, Defender for Cloud. So Defender for Cloud is a CNAPP, or a cloud native application protection platform. It encompasses a lot of solutions. We're talking about the cloud security posture management element of it, or the CSPM. So that applies what's called the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark over the top of your entire Azure infrastructure. You can't actually turn off the foundational CSPM, it's there today. So if you go and look at it, you will get security recommendations. We use M365 Secure Score that spans your identities, your applications, your data, and your devices, and makes recommendations as to how you can improve your overall security posture. And then if you have it available to you, Purview and Compliance Manager, where again, we take the same Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, but we can layer it with additional compliance policies. So if you need to be ISO 27001 regulated, or you align to Cyber Essentials, or the NCSE Cyber Assessment Framework, for example, you can bring those templates in using Compliance Manager and layer them over the top and see where the technical controls are, where the people and the processes are, and use those to, again, drive that zero trust engine. At the bottom, we have the Defender XDR platform. So this is our unified detection and response platform, and we wrap all of that in Sentinel as our security information and event management tool. And we ingest signals from all of these solutions, Endpoint, Office 365, Identity Cloud Apps, Defender for Cloud, to again provide that continuous assessment, that threat intelligence, and so on and so forth. And then looking at our data, our apps, our infrastructure, Defender for Office. The Defender for Office are predominantly associated with email protection, but it will also provide protection for your productivity workloads. So you can enable and configure Defender for Office to provide protection in Excel or PowerPoint or Word using time of click protection on links, for example. We can embed it into Teams to stop malicious links being communicated to us in that way, and the same with attachments. We apply Purview over the top. So again, identifying our data and being able to classify it, encrypt it, or rather label it, and then potentially encrypt it. Going back to Defender for Cloud Apps and the cloud workload protection for our, sorry, not Defender for Cloud Apps, is our, it's more than just a Caspi nowadays. Microsoft will shoot me if I say it's a Caspi, but being able to ingest telemetry data from our endpoints to see where our data is egressing or ingressing, and to evaluate whether the applications in our platform are sanctioned or unsanctioned. If we see data egressing to Dropbox and we know it's not right, we can take action on that. We can see who's sending it there, how much data has gone there. And if we embed it into Purview, we can also see the types of data in terms of classification. Defender for Cloud, under infrastructure, we have our workload protections. So we can extend Defender for Servers, which is Defender for Endpoint, but on our servers. We can extend it to our Kubernetes or our Key Vaults, all of those critical workloads that enable you to serve your customers or your users can be protected with that workload protection. And if you don't have everything in Azure, that's okay, because Microsoft have Arc, and that can extend the protection to our on-premises servers, so we can still ingest all those signals, we can still provide all of that protection. And the same is true if those virtual machines are not on premises or they're not in Azure, because we can even bring virtual machines from AWS or GCP into that solution as well. And then there's a few things in the middle around the network. Obviously, we have some great capabilities around Azure networking, from segmentation of networks. So that is things like network security groups, but we can extend that further. We can apply Azure Firewall, for example, web application firewalls, front door, all of that kind of good stuff. And then the new kids on the block, we also have intra-internet access and intra-private access. So this is, again, zero trust network architecture, where we're not trusting anything unless it's wrapped up in that. And we can provide protection to our M365 data, as well as out to the internet and back on premises for on-prem resources. Everybody good with that? Any questions? Anybody want to know anything more? Okay. Perfect. Lots of thumbs up. Okay, so I'll move on from there. So then, zero trust initial checklist. So you're thinking, great, okay, how do we start? Okay, first thing, Microsoft have a security adoption framework that leverages zero trust and the Microsoft cybersecurity reference architecture. These are some of the common questions that I ask customers when we're getting started. So first of all, today, if you want to see where you are, from an assumed breach point of view, are your backups immutable? And are you deploying patches within 14 days? So immutable backups, it's a no-brainer. If you suffer a data breach, you need to be able to recover from it, especially human-operated ransomware, right? If you're not doing it, go and look at tools like Microsoft 365 Backup. It's new. Azure Backup, deploying updates within 14 days. The reason I say 14 days is because that's the maximum time permitted if you're going to go and get Cyber Essentials. I would argue you want to be doing it sooner, but patching those vulnerabilities in your environment in a timely manner is critical to closing that gap. And again, you can do that with Intune. You can do that with Azure Update Manager. Have you decoupled and separated your privileged on-premises and cloud identities? What do I mean by that? First of all, decoupled. It is not uncommon for organizations and businesses to synchronize their on-premises administrators to the cloud and make them administrators in the cloud. From a lateral movement path for a threat actor, that's gold. So we want to decouple those identities. We want dedicated on-premises admin accounts. We want dedicated cloud admin accounts. And then we want to separate those from our productivity accounts. If I'm driving email or the internet, I shouldn't be doing that with a global admin. Fair? Have you reduced your password risk with 100% MFA coverage in Entra ID? It shocks me even today how many people still don't have MFA. Please go and turn it on. You can do this for free, 2-day with Entra. For free, 2-day with Entra ID. You have access to security defaults, which can be turned on. You can do per user MFA. I know it's going away, but not until 2025, and it buys you some time. Or you can do it with conditional access. Darren, I've seen your comment, your question in the chat. Do you want me to address it now? You can come off mute and ask it, or we can just talk about it. Simply yes or no. Yes and no. It depends. Windows Hello for Business cannot be used as a first factor of authentication. So it needs to be layered over the top of the Microsoft Authenticator app. So you would have to register for the Authenticator app first, because you can't register a user for Hello for Business.
So sorry, Rob. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
So
it's absolutely fine.
yes, I have. So I use the Authenticator app, and so does all of our users. But some of our users are also registered for Windows Hello, and it's the way a lot of them sign in to their computer in the morning and this sort of thing. So if we go into a cloud app, whichever cloud app that is, can we use fingerprint or face instead of the Authenticator app to verify who
Yes.
we are?
Yes, absolutely. And in actual fact, I would argue it's a stronger, well, in actual fact, we don't need to argue it is a stronger form of authentication. Yeah. Because it is bound to that device. So it's bound to the device TPM Windows Hello for Business. It is technically WebAuthn, and that makes it the same as FIDO2. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I guess you
yes.
won't be doing that during this webinar, how to turn that on or something. So
free consultancy.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I won't be, but yes, absolutely. If you've got 100% MFA coverage or near 100% MFA coverage, I don't know, in actual fact, if you've got 100% MFA coverage and you want to do things like Windows Hello for Business, this goes back to what I was saying. It's about enabling your employees to be as productive as possible, and by minimizing those barriers. If they are authenticating using Hello for Business, I would like to think you've covered the basics, right? So you're evaluating user risk, and you've got the devices in Intune, and you're evaluating against compliance, right? Sure. So yeah, excellent. Absolutely, it's something we can help you deploy.
Okay, but that's great. Thanks,
I
Rob.
think, yeah, no worries. And again, it goes right nicely to the next thing. You're using Intune and leveraging device compliance to inform access controls. This is vitally critical nowadays. I'm going to turn off the chat just for a second. I will come back to those questions, I promise, because I get distracted. Intune, device compliance. Adversary in the middle attacks are increasing in prevalence. So again, thinking about zero trust and verifying explicitly, we need additional signals around user authentication, yeah, based on risk. So having our devices in Intune just for compliance is really critical. Yeah. Are you using Secure Score and Defender for Cloud recommendations today? These are free. Are you using them today and following the guidance around improving your security posture? Yeah, vitally important. And then over and above that, we're using near real-time event information. So users and devices, and this is identity protection and Defender for Endpoint, to enhance our access decisions. If we have Joe that normally logs in from a particular device, and they log in from a different location or an unknown device, or someone else has used their device, or tried to move laterally to it, we should be elevating those risks around the user and around the device and applying some stronger controls. Yeah. And then we're monitoring our environments, or at least we're gathering logs so that we can start to detect anomalous activity. I said at the beginning of this about security adoption and Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture. If you go and look at that, if you go to aka.ms/Sierra Alpha Foxtrot Security Adoption Framework, it will give you the link to the MCRA. These are in the first three pillars of security posture and security initiatives: security hygiene, identity and access management, modern security operations. Okay. Before I cover this, I just want to, there were some questions in the chat. So Ben, so you'd argue that risky applying patches to all endpoints could be feasible in 14 days, but risky? It depends. I appreciate the sentiment. I've worked for lots of customers who have critical infrastructure. Hospitals, it's a big one, right? Where you don't want to patch everything in the first 2 days of Patch Tuesday, right? And you may have update rings, but you have to be pragmatic. It's about risk management. There is a potential that we may end up with some devices that don't work because of a badly written update, right? It's happened before. We can't pretend that it's not. But if those patches are fixing CVEs that are being exploited in the wild, which one would you rather? It's about risk management. Do we accept the risk that we're not patching everything in 14 days? Or do we accept the risk that we patch everything as soon as possible and that we may have some fallout because of a rubbish patch? And you're right,
Yeah,
critical servers
that.
even more. Hey, Ben.
No, absolutely. I just had to make the statement that just because that's the choice we make. So I guess we'll fail Cyber Essentials Plus on that basis.
If you're not patching within 14 days, yeah, you will. It's a hard truth. Yeah. Matt, internet private access currently in public preview. Do you have any? No, I had a call with the engineering team this week. They are gearing up, but there's still no GA date. There are a couple of blockers around the internet access, and they're hoping to have them fixed by GA. There is no pricing available at the moment unless you have an NDA with Microsoft. But speak to a guy or account manager in Transparity, and we can probably help you there. Is that okay? Answer that. Okay, cool. I think so. Okay, so cybersecurity journey. How can we help you? Obviously, the pitch part. So we split our approach to cybersecurity up into three sort of core elements. We assess, we deploy, we manage, we maintain. Around the assessment phase, the things that we offer today, the one that's most popular is our defense in depth cybersecurity assessment. If we go back to the zero trust architecture, it covers every element of that architecture in depth. We will dig into everything around your identities, everything around your endpoints, your network, your data, your applications, and your infrastructure. We will review your conditional access, how you're delivering it today. We will identify gaps, and we will report on your secure score and make recommendations. And we will draw out a gap analysis for you, and we will rank them for you so you have a clear idea of where your priorities should be. The CSAT assessment is something that's funded by Microsoft, so it's subject to eligibility. So I'll gloss over it, but it's very similar to our defense in depth. It aligns to the CIS critical security controls and their benchmarks. If you don't want a defense in depth review, we have tabletop exercises. And again, if we assume breach, how do we recover, right? What does our business continuity or disaster recovery plans look like? We'll run through with you a human operated ransomware attack or a password spray attack, and we'll cover everything from the technology all the way to the people and the processes that backs it, because they are critical elements. Yeah, it is not just about deploying technical tools. And then we also offer an external attack surface assessment. So using, again, Defender for Cloud technology and some third-party tooling, we will evaluate everything that a would-be threat actor could see about your environment and tell you where you may have critical vulnerabilities or misconfiguration. Again, gap analysis, RAG'd, so that you can see what are your immediate priorities. Obviously, to remediate those, we'll offer professional services. We'll help you with some of the baseline things. So it's routine that we get involved to help customers craft conditional access policies or roll out that last bit of MFA to our troublesome, last 10% of users where there are people or process blockers. I don't have a smartphone. I don't want to authenticate app on my phone. Those kind of challenges. We'll do proof of concepts, and we'll even get you ready for Cyber Essentials. And then we also offer a 24/7 security monitoring service where we will bring our security operations, our SOC analysts, our threat hunters, our security engineers, and we will drive your posture on, and we will make sure that we've got eyes on, we embed that threat intelligence, that continuous assessment, that response capability. Any questions on that? Cool. I'm going to hand back over to Guy.
Thanks, Rob. So I guess just to follow on from that, and I won't go through all the detail on the slides. Rob's obviously just kind of covered off some of the high level areas, but so one of the things that we do in these sessions is, put forward a follow-up or potential follow-up. So for here, obviously we've got a breakdown really of the three kind of core areas in the assessment phase in that security journey that we look at. So the tabletop exercise, the defense in depth, and also external attack. Obviously, in each of these, these can be combined. They cross over different areas. For some, there may be one thing you go, do you know what, that's the area that I need to look at. Our experience is the initial assessments are the key thing. Let's get a good understanding, especially the one in the middle, the defense in depth, of where we are, what we're trying to aim for, how do we sort of take forward this security journey. And as cliche as it is that you will be forever updating, changing, tweaking, but you've got to be able to start from somewhere. Obviously, zero trust is one of the kind of underpinning fundamentals of our of security, but actually, how do we start to understand other areas and things that will impact? Touched on some of the bits there around different products and some of the commentary around legacy services. How do we start to mitigate some of the things that you can't necessarily fix, but what could we do to mitigate and reduce risk? So a bit like at the start, I'm going to just pop up another poll, really, which is just posing the question of which of these areas do you think you'd have the most interest from. Obviously, feel free to select one or multiple, and we can follow up with some additional information on what those look like and how that may work for your organizations. So I will pop that. Again, if the tech works, fantastic. It'll pop up on screen now. And just whilst everyone's doing that, are there any additional questions? Now we've left a little bit of time here for some Q&A. Obviously, been a couple of points raised through the chat and on conversation, which is fantastic. Nice for Rob to be able to duck out of just presenting for a few minutes to answer those questions. But kind of open floor, really. Is there anything in today's session that you want to dive into in a bit more detail? Anything, I guess, even linked to this or around security that you're not sure on? Feel free to drop them in the chat for Rob or myself, or Rob's put his hand up.
Just one more thing, sorry. Right. Yeah, I absolutely did. I'm just going to pivot back to this slide because there was one thing that I forgot to mention on here. There's a QR code, go scan it, trust me. It links to that URL. If we've learned nothing today, it's like don't trust anyone, right?
I was going to say, yeah, I think I was now putting up a QR code. It's almost this is our like phishing check, right?
It's a test. No, it's not. If you don't want to scan the QR code, and I absolutely understand that, this is the URL that it links to. It's Microsoft's Zero Trust Maturity Model Assessment tool. If you go and have a look at it, it breaks again Zero Trust down into the pillars that I've talked about today around identity, endpoints, data, apps, network, infrastructure. And it asks you a series of questions. Answer it honestly or don't. Just say you're the complete worst, and it will tell you where to go and look as well. So sorry.
That's good. That's good. No, thank you. Yeah, so I love the fact we're asking people to scan a QR code when we've just told everyone don't trust anybody. So
it did tickle me when I generated it in Bing this morning.
What would have been good is actually if we had set that up as a bit of a trick. That's perhaps for next time. Just see who did. Who did scan it. But anyway, we're not here to trick people. That's not the point. But yeah, hopefully the session's been of value. So just running through some of the concepts. These conversations could easily run on for hours and hours to get into multiple different areas. But I guess final call in the last few minutes. If there are any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or shout out. Or if you've taken away the information you like, feel free to drop off. But yeah, thank you everybody for taking the time. Really appreciate it. And we're here for a few more minutes for any follow-up questions.
I just want to address before anybody else asks another question. Matt asked another element of the Entra SSE. Entra SSE for Microsoft 365 applications only is going to be included in the M365 EMNS E3 license. So it's going to be a capability for you to tunnel your Microsoft 365 traffic over Microsoft's global network and wrap everything in that continuous access evaluation. So there is a free element of it, just not internet apps or access back to your private infrastructure. Just cover that last bit off, Matt.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. yeah, so any questions, feel free to shout them out, drop them in the chat, or feel free to drop off. And thank you again, taking the time with us on a wintry Thursday morning, albeit a little bit sunny for me, but not for you, Rob, by the sounds of it.
No, not for me at all. It's actually it's now raining. Yeah, thank you everybody. Thank you for listening to me waffle on at you.